Hello and welcome in today's lecture. Today we shall be talking about forest and biodiversity conservation approaches in ancient India. As you all know that ancient Indian cultures were fundamentally based on the interaction between cultures and ecology. Ancient Indian civilizations were built on interactions with variety of biological phenomena and a concern for their preservation. Humans first acquired the ability to alter the Earth's surface in the prehistoric era. Civilizations has changed the environment in an unparalleled number of ways over the duration of the evolution of the human species. The main steps to change the existing conditions were the use of fire, the domestication of animals, and early agricultural methods. So when we talk about concept of forest and biodiversity in ancient Indian texts, as you know, environment played a significant role in shaping people's lives in activities in the early stages of human history. According to historical records, they were incredibly close to nature and its resources. The ancient people created a number of efficient safeguards for our ecosystem and environment that truly depict sustainable development. In today's lecture, we shall focus on a few ancient Indian texts and artifacts that eminently reflect current environmental, forest and biodiversity conservation perspectives. Firstly, we shall be talking about Kautilya's Arthashastra. Kautilya, also known as Chanakya, was the minister to Chandragupta Maurya, the first emperor of India. He wrote the book Arthashastra, which stated that the people were aware of the different soil types, rainfall patterns, and effective irrigation methods in various microecological situations. Arthashastra contained several sutras in several chapters that addressed various facets of statesmanship and administration, demonstrating that awareness of the surroundings is of paramount importance. The maintenance and preservation of forests, gardens, orchards were well emphasized in the book since they were all seen as sources of income in addition to being places of enjoyment. The Arthashastras divided the country between Himalayas and oceans into various kinds of regions: forests, aranya, village areas, gramya, mountains, parvata, wet or humid areas, odaka, drylands, bhauma, plains, sama, and uneven lands, visava. The environmental problems mentioned in the Arthashastra are still very significant in today's society. The Human Environment Conference in Stockholm in 1972 addressed some principles that were very similar to Arthashastra's precepts. The Water, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, and the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 are just a few examples of Indian environmental laws that exhibit astounding similarities to the structure and substance of Arthashastra. Manusmriti. We can learn that religion plays a variety of roles in preserving the integrity of the natural environment from the Manusmriti, which was composed in the post-Vedic era. The world's first ethical treatise on human laws, Manusmriti, was published by Maharishi Manu and dates back to the post-Vedic era. We recognize a manifestation of ecological awareness in the Manusmriti mantras for pollution prevention as: biodiversity means all living forms broadly ascribed as chara, movable living world, and achara, immovable plant kingdom. Pollution refers to spoilage of the 5 gross elements by unethical activity. For biodiversity protection, he mentioned that fish of all types should not be killed for food purpose. One-hoofed animals, village pigs, solitary moving animals, and unknown beasts should be protected. Carnivorous birds, birds of village habitat, web-footed birds, diving birds feeding on fish, birds with striking beaks should not be killed for the purpose of eating. He stated that killing of khara, ass, asva, horse, ustra, camel, mrig, deer, ebha, elephant, aja, goat is a sin. Karka Samhita and Susruta Samhita. The Karka Samhita and Susruta Samhita are regarded as two important pre-Christian Indian texts in the field of medicine. These books have numerous chapters that detail various illnesses and the methods used to treat them. They can also be viewed as good textbooks for demonstrating the value of medicinal plant resource. They dealt with the ecological and environmental views in addition to reporting the medical ones. Accordingly, on the kind of soil, climate and vegetation, Karaka and Susrata divided areas into three categories: Jangala, Anupa, Sadharana. Jangala are the region of open spaces where a steady dry wind blowed. The common plants of the region were Khadira, Acacia, Cathichua, Asana, Terminalia timontosa, and Badari, Ziziphus jujoba. Anupa are the marshy tract bordered by seas where cold wind and networks of rivers prevailed. The common plants were Vanjula, cane or reed, Hintala, kind of palm, Andanarikela, coconut, varieties of lotuses and water lilies, Variparni, Pistia species, Musica parni, Salvinia species, Jalnilia, Elgia, and Saivala moss. Sadharana are the intermediate regions that had some of the features common to the other two regions. The common plants were Mandara or Parijataka, coral tree, and Santana, kalpa tree. The Vedas. The Vedic age, which was introduced by the Aryans or noble people, a tribe of pastoral nomads from somewhere in Central Asia who settled on the plains of the Ganges in northern part of the subcontinent around the 2nd millennium BCE, preserved some aspects of the religious and cultural practices from the Indus period and other indigenous communities. 3 different types of supplementary literature were added to each Samhita over the course of centuries. The Brahmanas, deliberations of the rituals; Aranayakas, books considered in the forests; and Upanishads are the philosophical writings. Of these, Aranyakas are the forest works. Aranya in Sanskrit means forest and Arayanka means in the forest. And the Upanishad, Brihadanarayaka, translated as great forest text, are particularly important from the perspective of forestry traditions. The Vedas specified 4 types of living beings, namely Andaja, born on eggs; Jivaja, born of womb; Savidaja, born of moisture; and Udbhija, born of earth, and declared that these are impelled by Pranjanaman, consciousness. The Vedas described the diversified range of flora and fauna and urged the human beings to protect. According to Hindu philosophy, the entire world is a forest. We must preserve the global forest if we want to save this world as it is. This tradition persisted in the post-Vedic era, in addition to treating a landscape as sacred and precious. Individual species and microunits were also viewed as sacrosanct. Examples include sacred groves, temple and monastery forests, consecrated and sanctified trees, sacred trees, and sacred plants. The Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and Abhigyana Shakuntalam. Hastinapur, the capital of the Kauravas, was supposedly located in the woodland location, according to the Mahabharata. The kingdoms of Kauravas and Panchalas, which roughly occupied the upper Gangetic plains, were also mentioned as being situated in the forested area. Kuru Jungle, Nimisha, and Utpal Arayana, 3 of the 9 sacred forests listed in the Devi Purana, covered the upper Ganga plains. From the Hastinapur excavations, pollen records reveal the existence of Pinus, Dalbergia, etc. etc. Small groups of woodlands known as sacred groves are devoted to regional deities. In several areas of the country, particularly in the northeastern regions and the western Ghats, they are a common occurrence. These dark, evergreen forest parts, which have been preserved for all the time, are thought to be sacred to the local deity. Many of them have climax level vegetations and are home to uncommon and little known plant species. In addition to safeguarding the local ecology, sacred groves give village residents access to a variety of non-wood fruit, dry firewood, and dry leaves. Over 10,000 sacred groves are said to exist in India according to some earlier surveys. Epics and Brahmanas, illustrations of forest conservation. When Rama, the prince of Ayodhya, is about to set out on his long exile in the forests south of the Gangetic plains, his mother Kaushalya expresses fears about his safety. "May the huge elephants not harm you, my dear son," she says, "nor the lions, tigers, bears, boars, and ferocious horned buffalo." Rama himself, in a bid to dissuade his wife Sita from following him into woods, paints a similar portrait of the forest as a place of hidden menace. The sharp kusa grass would stab the souls of people walking the paths, and the roars of the flesh-eating lions would assail the senses. Even the name Vana, which means forest, was only applied to places where pleasure was followed by hardship. But when Sita finally gets her way and goes into exile with her husband, a radically different vision of the same countries is revealed. She finds joy in the areas that are covered in forests. Lotus ponds in full bloom, blanketed with flocks of birds and ducks. The poet paints in vivid detail. Pain is replaced by affluence and beauty by menace. The honey-scented trees and the river banks where herds of thirsty deer gather entice Sita. The Valmiki Ramayana took on the form that we read today roughly 1500 years ago, while its oral traditions date back further. The various chapters of the epic are connected by the twin themes of the forest as a place of pearl to be faced and of beauty to be admired. In North India, a new period of town building started in the 3rd century CE. The sage scribes each had a different idea of what the forest was like. The majority of the times, it was perceived as a different place with a different culture and population, as well as unique animals and birds. The city was little compared to the forest. The brothers Rama and Lakshmana lived in a forest hermitage with a gleaming metal sword and axe to ward off any intruders. They first offered the black buck, the most important of all sacrificed animals, in order to construct their house in the forest. Lakshmana saw to it that animal was slain, but that its limbs were left on so that they could be roasted and broiled before being offered to the gods. The antelope, known as Krishnasara, has traditionally stood in for the vast areas and cereal-producing dry terrain that served as the center of civilization. The swampy areas known as the Anupa, where malaria was common and elephants abundant, lay beyond its range. Aryavarta, the land of the Aryans, was frequently coterminous with the land of the black antelope in texts from the Vedic era, which occurred many millennia before. These were regions to the north of the Vindhya mountain range, which was sometimes described in terms of geography. The societies beyond were viewed as having a separate culture and a way of life, being uncivilized, savage, and perilous. The intricate realities of the connections between people and nature in ancient India are not well represented by such straightforward representations. However, they do provide a sense of attitudes among the educated classes whose lives never ventured far from the city. There are more than just two methods to divide the variety of landscapes into the Aranya or forest and the Grama or village. Land is categorized up to 5 ecotypes, ranging from the littoral to the wet rice paddies in Tamil literature from the Sangama period, which predates Valmiki's epic. Over time, habitat ecology and characteristics altered. For instance, when the rain stopped, the dry area of Pallai, where people lived by herding, became a dangerous place where wolves and thieves assaulted people. In non-medical texts, composers see the animals or their habitat in a metaphorical and not a literal sense. This indicated a self-consciousness and distance from the forest in the high literary culture. The wolf or vrika is viewed as a gluttonous animal, while the lion is revered as the king of the beasts. An image of an elephant in rage is frequently used, while a king in exile is described as a tiger among mankind. Seasons are metaphorical in the same way that locations or particular animals are. When it rained, the forests conjured up extremely poetic descriptions that conjured up images of fertility and abundance. The monsters themselves can occasionally only exist in myth, such as the Sarabha or the Yali. In the Shakuntalam drama by Kalidas, a king massacres elephant and tiger families. However, one cannot accept such evidence at face value while demeaning those who lived in or near forests as having a less honorable existence. Court poets would praise royal hunts as kingly conquerors of the forest. Dear students, environment played a significant role in shaping people's lives and activities in the early stages of human history. According to historical documents, they were very close to forests and other natural resources. The concepts of forest ecology and conservation were reflected in ancient Indian texts as the Arthashastra, Satyapatha, Brahmansa, Vedas, Manusamriti, Bharat Samhita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Rajatarangini. The Indus Valley civilization used a significant amount of timber wood for burning bricks, which led to a reduction in the number of forests. Rainfall decreased as a result, and soil erosion led to the deposits of silt in the Indus River, cutting off Mohenjo-daro from the sea. This produced a rise in the water table, which must have been a major contributing factor to Mohenjo-daro's collapse. According to numerous ancient Indian texts, including Kalidasa's Abhigyana Shakuntalam, the sacred groves, Tapovana, of India were abundant in ecological diversity and reach. The banyan and peepal trees, which were widely protected throughout Asia and Africa, were frequently mentioned in historical contexts. Modern strategies for the conservation of forest and biodiversity are being established in a variety of nations, but they are all in one way or another affected by the traditional view that dates back to the ancient India. With this, we conclude the first part of this lecture. See you in the next part, where we shall be continuing with the same topic. Goodbye.